Oh, for God's sake. Oh, we did it. Oh, good. Okay. All right. All right, we did it. Okay, so that's credits, baby. Let's talk about the ups and downs of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So let me start here. I am aware that this is regarded by many, many respected people as the best game of all time, or top 3 at least, right? Like, it's up there. It's among the very best games of all time. I had a roller coaster of emotions while playing this game because honestly, I haven't been enjoying it. I didn't. There are some glimmers of moments during a couple of bosses and maybe during a temple or a dungeon or two that I had some fun, but for the most part, I did not enjoy it. The controls are horrible. The camera is horrible. I don't care about the graphics. The story is good, but it's not my kind of story. The exploration, which is one of the best parts of this game, probably for a lot of people, the joy of that is lost on me because I don't really enjoy that kind of aspect of a game. So I quit this game at a certain point. Like, I wasn't even going to play it, and then I decided it was important enough that I needed to force my way through it. So that it made it worse. Just forcing myself to play a game that I'm not enjoying, it has been a miserable experience. I am glad that I got through it, but the simple truth is that as good as this game may be objectively, I hated it. Like, I'm gonna bury it in my rankings because I just didn't have any fun. It's just not my kind of game. I'm not patient enough. I'm not the kind of person that's gonna be really interested in, like, just dropping into a world and wandering off in a random direction until I figure out what I need to do to move forward. That's just not what I enjoy. And it wasn't before I started doing this either, which is why I never beat games like this when I was a kid. I'd play them for an hour or two and I'd get stuck and be like, I don't want to wander around the whole world trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. That's not fun to me. It's just never been fun to me. That's why I started A Link to the Past and a few other games many times as a kid and never got very far because I would always get to some point where, honestly, most people probably use a walkthrough. And if you are one of those people that that has the patience and the interest to just spend however many dozens of hours in a game like this trying to figure out what to do and, like, exploring every nook and cranny, I totally understand why people would think that this is one of their favorite games ever, if not their favorite game ever. I get it. I do understand it. It's just not for me. And I've spent a lot of time wondering, like, well, it's just me. It's just a me problem, right? And that's what I've come to, because I'm not stupid enough to say, well, everyone in the world that loves this game is wrong. Even by 2024 standards, I can understand why people wouldn't enjoy this game. If you're not that bothered by the controls and the camera, I get it. However, I will say I do have one objective piece of criticism, and that is that some of these games, and like the original Zelda is way worse. It's so obtuse. You have to, like, I remember there's one part you have to chop down a single bush in a field of bushes that you have no reason to know why you should go over there. And that's where the dungeon, like the 6th dungeon entrance is. And it's like, the only way you're going to find that out is to go across every page of the map and just chop down every bush. That's the only way you're going to figure it out. And it wasn't that bad in this game, but it was in that ballpark where there were a few things that you had to do. It's like the only way that you're going to figure it out is to either experiment over and over again with all kinds of different things, or maybe you're getting more hints and things than I did because you're going to every corner of the map, talking to every single character, and doing a bunch of other stuff that I just don't have the patience for. My objective criticism is that I believe in this game came out in 96, 97, it was the mid to late 90s. This was still the era of Nintendo power. And Nintendo is a very intelligently run business. So I do not believe that when they were making games like this, they weren't at least considering the fact that there were going to be people buying Nintendo Power magazine subscriptions and calling their paid hotline for help. And I believe that these games of this era, and it's particularly with Nintendo games, I do not believe that these games were not made with that in mind. Now, does that mean you have to do that? No, of course not. If you're dedicated enough and you're patient enough, you don't have to do that. I'm sure there were lots and lots of people that got through this game without any help. But if you didn't have that big brother that knew games better than you, or that friend that knew, or that parent or whatever that could help you, and you weren't one of those infinitely patient people, yeah, you're going to get a magazine subscription, or you're going to call their 1-900 number or whatever, right? Like, that's your only other option. And I believe that these games were designed with that in mind. I believe that they were. And to me, personally, I think that that's less than ideal. However, it doesn't really take away from the experience that those people that got through it on their own, because that makes it all the sweeter if you figured it out on your own, right? And I do understand how gratifying that could be to say that you got through a game like this by yourself and it took you 75 hours when you were 10 years old, or whatever the situation is. I get it. I totally understand. It's not just nostalgia. I like when I played the Outer Wilds, I still had help from chat because I was live streaming back then. But getting through a game like that mostly on my own it's one of my favorite games ever. It was intensely gratifying. So I understand that feeling. I just can't get that feeling with this kind of game, because I'm just not gonna go to every single character and talk to them in every single corner of the world as soon as the world opens up. I'm just not going to. It's just not, and I didn't do it when I was 10 years old either. It's not just because I'm a curmudgeon about newer games and newer gameplay. It's not just about that. I just have never enjoyed really being patient and getting into games like this. I just never have. So the bottom line is, I understand the objective quality of the game. I would never argue with someone who told me that this was one of the top 10 best games ever. I would not. I can see it. I would never make that argument. But I hated it, and I'm gonna bury it in my rankings. Like it's gonna be like bottom 50. Like this honestly, this has been one of the most depressing gaming experiences of my entire life, because I just forced my way through a game that I wasn't enjoying, because I don't want to be a gamer that hasn't beaten Ocarina of Time, you know? So I did it, and I used a walkthrough heavily. I tried to keep away from it as much as I could, but if I was stuck for more than a few minutes, I would just pull up a walkthrough and see what I needed to do next. So I used a walkthrough, I don't know, 25 times probably, somewhere around there. Maybe more. And that further sapped the enjoyment, because I'm not figuring it out on my own, so it's not fun, right? So I hated it. I did not have fun at all. I know I'm not the only one. I feel like the majority of people are probably with me. I think that the people, and I have a great deal of respect for these people, the people that got through this game on their own, I have a great deal of respect for those people. But I think that's the minority. I think most people, even the ones that say they've enjoyed this game, probably had help. So, all right, we're done. We're done with this. Couple other things before we end here. The bottom center of the screen says that we've beaten 93 games in 2024 and 540 since we started doing this in 2020. Those numbers are lying to you. We've now beaten 94 games in 2024 and 541 since we started doing this. Let's go. All right. This would normally be the part of the video where I would say, Ocarina of Time, it's been fun, but we're now going to delete you from our console and never play you again. This is on the N64 and Switch, so we're not going to delete it. There'd be no point in doing that. I don't even know if you can. So we will just say, Legend of Zelda, it's been fun, but, well, it was fun a few times for a few minutes at a time. But we're now going to say goodbye. Thank you for being an awesome game to others.